Hi, everyone. Jennifer Eklund here with my lovely co-author, Kris Skaletski, and our new mascot for the Road Trip series. This is Daisy Dog, and she is our tour guide for the Road Trip to the Farm book. We're going to be talking about the to the farm book in this webinar, sort of taking you on a brief overview through the book, talking about some interesting concepts and that you're going to come across with your students.
I think I closer.
Okay, we've been doing this for a while now. If you're new to the Road Trip series, welcome. I hope you're ready for full-time fun, because you're going to have a lot of full-time fun. Road Trip is a lateral piano method book series for beginners ages 4 and up. It is lateral in the sense that each book starts from the very beginning, so you can start a beginner who has never played before in any of the 4 books. That being said, we do have a suggested order of the books. You'll find that on the Piano Pronto website in the Teacher Resources section, where we sort of lay out the core concepts that are really drilled in each of those books and the order that we see the books falling in. Now, that doesn't mean that if you have a student who really, really wants to go to the farm and experience that storyline in the farm book, that they need to go through the other 2 books first,
right.
Because as we all know, students are very much willing to rise to the occasion, right, when they are motivated. So the main difference between the Road Trip books is that their storyline is different and unique. When Kris and I first wrote this series, we wanted to give the power of choice to students so that they could experience one adventure and then at the end of that adventure have the choice of what they wanted to do next, if they wanted to go to the carnival or if they wanted to go on the camping trip or if they wanted to go to the lake, which is a wonderful thing that you don't see very often in piano method books, allowing the student to decide what they're going to do next. But we have thoughtfully put all of the appropriate pedagogy in each book so that you won't be skipping any steps.
Right.
If you skip around in the series.
Mm-hmm.
So Kris is going to talk a little bit about our core philosophy behind the Road Trip series.
I like what you said about them.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. If I don't compliment you enough, I should. The whole idea of a reaching to achieve. Don't assume that because there may be more challenging a concept in a book, students will often reach to achieve. And along that vein is the idea of assumed competence, which just means really teaching to the highest point and then adjusting the lesson accordingly based on what that child that's sitting in front of you needs to happen in the lesson. We shouldn't assume based on their age that they can or they can't. So you'll find in all of the Road Trip books that we teach to that highest point, knowing that you as teacher have the skills and the abilities and the tool set to work within the parameters of what that student needs you to do. And to that end, there's a lot of laddering or scaffolding, layering, if you will, whatever terminology you want to use, to build on those concepts and make it work for your student.
Right.
The soundtrack. Did you want to talk about the soundtrack?
Yes, the soundtrack. Well, I should mention as well, if you're new to Road Trip or if you are new to teaching younger students, even if you're not new to teaching younger students, we really strongly recommend that you get the accompanying teacher guidebook for each of the Road Trip books. We purposely left the student book void of instructions for a couple different reasons. Number one, we wanted to keep a really clean layout in the books. We didn't want to clutter it up with a lot of text. We want the Road Trip book to end up being a personalized music scrapbook by the time the student has finished the book. We want these books to be those keepsake items that go into the piano bench that parents and students can look at, years
Mm-hmm.
from now and see how the student personalized their own book. And let's be frank, most 4- and 5-year-olds are not going to read instructions in a book because maybe they can't or they're just not interested in instructions. So the teacher guidebooks feature comprehensive lesson plans for all 18 songs in each book. The lesson plans break down how we see the lesson rolling along. We give you a lot to do because we know that for teachers, most often the question is, what am I going to do with a 5-year-old for 30 minutes? That seems like an eternity. So we purposely give you, more activities than you need, but this allows you the power of choice to choose what's going to fit your student on any particular day. You can pick and choose what you want. And then also, if you're just having a day where you're feeling kind of baffled as to, well, gosh, what should I do next? We do have a lot of ideas there for you. Aside from the lesson plans, you also get 2 duet versions for each song in the guidebook. You have a deconstructed version, which will just have basic chord structures and very basic rhythms so you don't overwhelm the student orally with too much sound. And then you get the Jennifer version, which is, the one you aspire to when the song is actually finished. The duets are fresh and contemporary and fun. They're full of lots of contemporary rhythms. I talk constantly about the importance of collaborative work with students from very early on. Not only is it good for them rhythmically, but it's good for them because they watch you. Mm-hmm. They watch you. They start to gesture as you do. They listen to you. One of the biggest downfalls that we have as pianists is that we so rarely play in groups. Mm-hmm. And, it's one of the benefits that like string players have is that, they get tossed into orchestra really early on. They have to listen, they have to learn to listen and blend with other people. So playing duets right from the beginning is such a wonderful way to really get students engaged in listening, that you'll find that they start to follow your dynamics, and it leads to wonderful discussions about things very early on.
Right. Learning is listening. That's an important part. It takes our ears as well as our fingers and our brains to play the piano.
So the guidebooks are super essential. Mm-hmm. The soundtracks, we should mention, they're wonderful. They're a wonderful resource to have for you as the teacher during the lessons. But it's also a wonderful way for the student to take the fun of Roadtrip home during the week. The soundtracks are broken down this way. Our wonderful jazz singer, Jenny, who recorded the soundtracks for us, she reads the opening verse. Each lesson opens with a rhyming verse from the Queen of Rhymes over here. That would be Kris. Jenny reads the rhyme, which sort of puts a framework down for the lesson. And then she sings the student song with the lyrics. Very important for the student to start synthesizing that and start memorizing those lyrics, because we rely heavily on words and lyrics to teach more advanced rhythms. And then they get the backing track version where they hear the piano part and the orchestrated backing track, and the piano duet version. So sometimes when it's difficult to ask a 4 or 5-year-old or to expect them to practice effectively at home during the week, especially if they don't have a lot of at-home support from the parents, even just listening to that soundtrack is going to be a wonderful way for them to just sort of keep the music fresh in their minds and in their ears. Dancing
around at home, or marching at home to the music, or just listening.
Or swaying. She always wants me to sway and dance.
I do.
And so
should we dive in?
Let's go. Go.
All right, so we're going to talk an overview of the whole book, but we're going to look first of all at the fact that every road trip book has got a healthy balance of rote, note, and finger number learning, and the farm book is no exception to that. So when we look at song number 2, which is the Rise and Shine Rooster, this has groups of 4 eighth notes, but again, it's easily taught by rote because of the words cock-a-doodle-doo go along with that rhythm pattern. So we want you to know that you'll have in the teacher guide suggestions as for what words you could use, or again, the lyrics. If you have other words that you want to use, we want you to use the terminology that you're comfortable with and feel is appropriate. But we thought that cock-a-doodle-doo was a great application for a 4/8 note, quarter note pattern. So heavy relying on the lyrics right off the bat when she said, yeah.
And I'll say that when we introduce a concept that would maybe seem difficult, like, wow, eighth notes, very
lesson
early.
2,
yeah, lesson 2, we're doing eighth notes. That's right, you are. But that's the only rhythmic pattern in the piece. That's all they're doing is cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo. Cock-a-doodle-doo, over and over again. So we balance everything out. We are not hitting them with a ton of difficult things. This is the concept for that song, and they do it over and over again. We're not changing notes through the eighth notes. So it's a gentle easing into eighth notes.
Sure is, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're going to look ahead to song number 4, which is Daisy Dog. It has been named for Jennifer's lovely border collie, Daisy. And she is our tour guide for us on our farm road trip. So she is pervasive. She's throughout the books with her bandana with the D on, again for Daisy, or by the 2 black keys, D for dog. And right off the bat in this one, we have got some movement of notes, and we have a tie included here. And again, the keyboard geography of of finding the D by the two black keys, right? But she's going to lead us around, and we want students to find her as they go through the book. That's a fun component for them as they turn the page. Whereas Daisy Dog, Daisy Dog, going to be for each of their weekly song adventures.
Right? You'll start to see her pop up in other road trip books as well. So she's the new Mickey Mouse.
She is.
That's what we've decided.
Way cuter. Okay, so song number 6 is Fuzzy Kitty, Furry Kitty. One of the things that I like about this, and Jennifer's going to show you a cute trick with the ball, is the teacher duet. Some of you, if you're Big Bang fans, will recognize the teacher duet part. It's our little clever take on a song from that show, right?
Yeah.
So we've got a 2-note slur showing up in Fuzzy Kitty, Furry Kitty at 6 lessons in.
Shocking!
Right? Wait till you see this cool trick that Jennifer has. That's going to be a really good tool that you may want to use in your studio.
So I have this little stress ball that I love. Not that I'm stressed, but, we can pretend. So it's a soft ball. You can get them in different sizes. Also, since this is the Fuzzy Kitty, Furry Kitty song, you could use a ball of yarn for this. So if you've got a student with really small hands, you might want to use a small ball of yarn. A tennis ball would work as well. So one of the things that we do a lot and suggest a lot in the teacher guides is doing things off of the piano before you start to take them onto the piano. So practicing on a hard surface, either the fall board or a table. This is a good way to get the student off the bench. If you have a table that they can stand next to and work on. But we just have the student place their hand nice and easy over the top of the ball. And you can adjust where the ball sits for kids who have smaller hands. So this promotes a nice loose wrist, and you can just practice this motion, rocking back and forth between the second finger and the fifth finger, again, just adjusting to fit the hand shape.
Right.
And you'll find that students are much less tense than when they get onto the piano, and they have sort of this nice rocking motion already built in, imagining that the ball is still there.
Right.
And with a concept like this, it's important to reiterate that we're not looking for perfection at this point. A lot of this is about laying the groundwork and building that foundation slowly. You're not going to have the house built in 2 days. It's going to take some time. But we don't shy away from just using the normal vocabulary terms for things. We're not relying on cutesy little ways of remembering things. If it's a quarter note, we say it's a quarter note. If it's a 2-note slur, we call it a 2-note slur, and just give them the straight up vocabulary right away. Young children very much appreciate being treated like big people, like adults.
Like they know.
Yeah, exactly.
Again.
Yeah, and it's like learning any language. You learn the word for what it is.
Right. They don't expect elaborate descriptions. Right. If you say something is a slur, that's it. It's a slur.
Right. And you know what? They might not nail the rotation right away. But guess what? It's a concept that's coming back. So you lay the foundation here, and you kind of just keep building the house slowly. So don't stay stuck on a song just because you feel like, maybe the rotation isn't down, maybe they're not quite connecting that slur yet. That's okay. You have time. Remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Correct. Number 7 is one of my favorite songs. It's the Chicken Coop Cha-Cha. And yes, I dance when I hear this, and that's okay. If you have been played through the To the Lake book, you played Beep, 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 which was a student favorite, the harmonic interval, using 2 hands and playing a third. Kids love that sound. They love creating a thicker, layered music sound. So in Chicken Coop Cha-Cha, we had them playing fourths and seconds. Again, very easy. It's 2 hands doing it, so it'll be finger number 2 playing the fourth and then playing the second. They're going to love the sound of this a lot. And we kind of took the lesson from Beep, Beep, Beep and put harmonic intervals in every single measure for this song.
Yeah.
I know.
Shocking.
Right? Yeah, they're going to think this is fun. Plus, we have chickens with maracas. How can you lose when you got chickens with maracas?
I want to go to that farm.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That looks like a fun one. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Was your farm that fun in Wisconsin?
We didn't have chickens. Oh. We had 2 pigs. Their names were Elmer and Eileen. Everything had a name. We had a sheep.
I love that.
I know. April.
Oh.
I had 2 bunnies.
Oh.
Smokey and Innocence.
Oh.
Cows.
This book is quite special for Kris, she's going to cry.
No, I'm not going to cry. I grew up on a farm, a small dairy farm in Luxembourg, Wisconsin. It was population 532 when I was growing up. So it is near and dear to me. My parents raised us to work very hard. If any of you are on a farm, you know exactly what I'm referring to. So,
and I know nothing about farms, being from California, but I had the honor of meeting Kris's wonderful parents out there in the heartland, and for me, coming from Southern California, it's quite a change of pace, but really quite beautiful to see, America's heartland and these working farms still out there. So it's lovely to be able to pay homage to that, because I'm sure that there's tons of kids out there in this country who can totally relate to all these barnyard antics. So.
Well, and I think it's special for you too, because all three of your pups.
Right.
We've talked about Daisy.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking about the other two as we go through the book. So this has been a special project.
Absolutely.
So number 9 is Piglets on Parade. And even as I said it, that is the rhythm of the song. Piglets on parade. Here they come, they're piglets on parade. And that's what the student part is. They're piglets on parade.
And yes, those are swing eighth notes that you hear. Shocking. But, okay, so this is probably the only thing that we use a cutesy name for. We call them jazzy eighth notes, just because we have the students clapping jazzy rhythm, piglets on parade. Yep. Piglets on parade. So, jazzy rhythm is a little bit easier to remember than swinging.
Right.
So,
plus it's easier to say.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work.
And it's jazzy.
Yeah, and it's jazzy. So you'll see that both in the To the Farm book and in Country Carnival.
Yeah.
So again, relying heavily on words and feel and movement to learn these rhythms. This is not about 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and.
All right.
Although you absolutely could use that if you have a student who thrives using traditional counting numbers. That's fine. When you're using this with very young kids, don't get into a conversation about fractions. You don't need to. Absolutely, you'll have a much easier time if you rely on words and feel instead.
We like to take concepts that are new and then bring them into the very next lesson, so they get another opportunity to work and master those concepts. And number 10 is the goose and loose, and that's certainly no exception, because again, the goose is loose. That's right. It's running away from the farm, isn't it? And there's the rooster up in the hymn, right? And Daisy Dog.
And Daisy Dog.
That's right. So those groups of 4/8 notes come back here and here again. Plus, we have a crossover from the right to the left, which I like to have that midline cross, and I know you like that as well.
I love it.
It's a trick, and the kids like the tricks.
Yeah.
Number 11. You want to talk about it?
Oh, no, I was just thinking about the Goose is Loose.
Yes.
Again, it's bringing back the idea of jazzy eighth notes in groups of 4. But it brings them back in a little bit of a different context. So you've got more of them all on one line of music. So you've got 16 of them in a row. You've got 4 measures of 2/4 time. So they really get to practice that in succession.
Right.
So, with all of these core concepts, it's about seeing these concepts in different contexts. It's the same thing when you're learning to read music. It's not enough to learn how to read the E once. You have to see that E in lots of different contexts. Maybe you're approaching it from a G instead of approaching it from a C. So you'll see that we take these concepts and we do keep rolling them into new contexts.
Conversational teaching. I like to call that conversational teaching. Even if it's not in the song, go back and talk about it again if you don't see it mentioned.
You'll find that in the teacher guidebook as well. We have a recapitulation section. See what we did there? For each lesson. So we will often, we always have you go back and review the piece from last week. But then let's say you're going to do jazzy eighth notes again in the new piece. Then we kind of send the kids on a search. We say, why don't we go back and find another song where we used groups of jazzy eighth notes, and let's go back and play that to remember it. So they can make that association between something that they've already done before and something that they're about to do again in a new context.
Right. I love that harkening back to the history of what they've done to pull it into the
And they would love the word recapitulation.
I know, it's a good one, isn't it?
It's a spelling bee word.
It is. Song number 11 is Puddle Jumper, and I just want to talk really quickly about our vehicle for the farm. So in the first road trip book that we did was To the Lake, and the vehicle of choice was a little VW Bug. And in Outdoor Adventure, it's a Airstream trailer being pulled by a VW van. And in Country Carnival, we chose the Roadtrip rail, which is a train engine as the vehicle. And in the farm, I guess it's probably not hard to guess, we chose a tractor.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll see the tractor on the cover and throughout the book as well, which will be fun. Kids like tractors. They're fun and they're noisy. And I personally drove one. Have you driven a tractor?
No, can't say I've had the pleasure. I think we climbed on one in Wisconsin.
We
once.
did.
Yeah.
Oh, we should post one of those pictures. Oh my gosh.
Proud moment.
Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm.
You look good in a tractor.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. So song number 11 is Puddle Jumper. We introduced staccato, and we call it staccato. We want them to be thinking about the ways that they would touch their keys, touch the keys of the piano. Again, you are welcome to use your own terminology. If we say to suggest a staccato and you prefer another manner, this is your student, this is your studio. We want you to feel that you have every opportunity to teach the way that best works for you.
Mm-hmm. Right. And once again, we have lyrics that are supporting the touch here. The lyrics on the staccato notes are jumping for the win. Yeah. So you have that idea of jumping right there as those staccatos come in to sort of,
that feel that's
to support
like
support what it's
the action is what we're asking them to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Song number 12 is Say Cheese. And in Say Cheese, we've got legato. We've got 3-note slurs. So we just talked about staccato. This is really a helpful tool for children, young children especially, having the opposite concept to be applied as well. If you kind of talk about fast, you really have to talk about slow. We're talking about staccato, we should talk about legato as well. And we use melty cheese as the idea for that. I thought that was a great analogy. That was yours.
Cheese.
And again, the ball trick could come nicely into this one.
Right. In this song, we're rotating fingers 4, 3, and 2 in both directions on both hands. So you can get them to have that ball on the table rolling through those 3 fingers in both directions, focusing on a nice loose and relaxed wrist.
Right, definitely.
Yeah.
Always want to be modeling that good hand position.
And what's nice in song number 12 as well is that we still have the staccato there as well. So we're mixing together these 2 opposite articulations. So they have the melty cheese legato where they're not losing connection with the keys, and then they've got their staccato where they're jumping, or stataco like they all like to say.
I love that. Right. I think I say that sometimes.
Makes me hungry.
Yeah. Or Dominic. Instead of dominant, Dominic.
Oh, I haven't heard that one, but okay.
Must be a Wisconsin.
It must be a Wisconsin. We should be on TV, right?
I know, right? We should podcast.
Right.
Except you're in California and I'm in Wisconsin.
That could be difficult.
I do not say it like that. Anybody from out there in Wisconsin. Okay, so we're going to talk about Sheep, 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 which is Sydney Dog's song.
Yeah. So my little Daisy dog, who you met at the beginning of the video, she's a border collie through and through, and she's decided that my other little border collie mix is her sheep. So she stalks her all the time. So we call her Sydney Sheep now. This is sort of a vampy, jazzy, minor piece with staccato, and because Sydney's got a lot of attitude, so everything I write for her is very sassy. So she's a sassy little sheep. As Kris mentioned earlier, Beep, Beep, Beep was one of our most popular pieces ever in the road trip series, with the little harmonic third that the kids got to play that sounded like a car horn. So we wanted a little throwback to Beep, Beep, Beep. So we wrote Sheep, Sheep, Sheep. Yes, and so you've got the same idea with sheep, sheep, sheep. Once again, the staccato touch is coming in on that harmonic interval. And we do talk about intervals quite a bit in the farm book. It's one of the focal points, actually. When we started writing this, Kris said, the kids love beep, beep, beep. We got to get more harmonic intervals in. I said, yeah, that'll be cool. And I was really surprised at how much I liked playing around with the harmonic fourth, which is actually a really interesting sound. So you'll see a lot of that. We talk about it in the teacher guidebook. You can choose to take it or leave it. We talk about, the difference between melody and harmony, how to introduce that to a student. We have easy ear training activities for you to do with your students. So again, you can take that as far as you want to, or you can leave it. You don't have to do anything with it. They'll still think it sounds really cool.
That's right. A lot of fun. Song number 15. We went there. Hey, ride, ho down.
Woo! Dotted rhythm.
Yeah, dotted rhythm, right? And I like your analogy to this. You can't stay away from it. It's everywhere. It is Ode to Joy, as you had mentioned. Jingle bells.
Right. And how often, if it isn't there in the music and they know it should be there, they end up putting it in. So I'm all about that eye-ear connection. this is such a pervasive rhythm, the dotted quarter note followed by an eighth note. They hear it all the time, so why not show it to them? They can totally handle it. And again, we have lyrics that are really, really supporting the movements of that rhythm.
It's okay to teach it by rote. That's perfectly fine, because them hearing and internalizing it, that's an important part of the process too.
Absolutely.
Keep on moving.
So my final border collie, yes, I have 3 of them. She's my beauty queen. She's a little bit of my slow mover, and when she sleeps, she kind of moos in her sleep.
I've heard it.
So we call her Maggie Moo. So this is her song, and it's called "Keep on Moving," and it's kind of a sassy, jazzy piece. We go back to the jazzy eighth notes, but they get to get a black key involved this time, so they're alternating between 2 C's and 2 E flats, in sort of a lanky, jazzy rhythm. And keep in mind, if for some reason they can't get the jazzy rhythm, you absolutely can teach this as straight eighth notes. There's no problem with that at all.
If a finger's not working for your student, change a finger number. There, you have that latitude to make this work for your student. Right,
and this is a concept that I think, even for myself as a musician, how many times do I open a book and look at editorial fingering and say, oh, that's perfect, that fits my hand perfectly? Well, no, that's not a realistic part of being a musician. Sometimes you have to adapt just because, we're shaped differently.
Exactly.
So absolutely, if you need to make those changes, we think what we've done, what is most probably going to be most universally comfortable for most hands. But absolutely, if you need to make adjustments for a student, you feel free to do that.
Right, exactly. Especially for little ones. Sometimes 1 is just not ready, or 4 or 5. You've got that latitude.
Absolutely.
And then the last song is number 18, and I love how we always come back to the opening theme with a little bit more of a difficult.
Did we even mention what the opening theme is?
I don't know.
It's the William Tell Overture. But as usually happens in the Road Trip series, because the first song needs to be very elementary, since these books all start for beginners, usually the melody is carried in the teacher duet part. So you will be playing the William Tell Overture theme, and your student will be accompanying you. But we like to bring that full circle, so they come back to this point of familiarity. They will recognize the theme song, but now that they have completed the book, they will be they'll have a little fancier version of that first theme, and they'll be doing harmonic fourths and harmonic thirds to just kind of spice things up a little bit.
Great.
But it's a nice sense of accomplishment when they get there, and I know this already. Oh, we're just doing this to kind of spice it up. Great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that song number 18 then wraps up the farm road trip, right?
Yeah.
So anything in particular that you want to do to wrap it up?
I guess I should just mention really quickly, we usually get the question, well, what do I do after road trip? If your student has blasted through this book and you feel that they're ready to go into Piano Pronto Keyboard Kickoff, absolutely take them there. We have placed the To the Farm book 3rd in the series of 4. That's where we feel it fits most logically. So if you were moving through the series, you would move to Country Carnival, where we tend to layer more elements into each song. It's also a really fun storyline. You could use that in tandem with Keyboard Kickoff, or you can go back to Outdoor Adventure or to the lake.
Right.
The idea with Road Trip is that you've got all of these different options so that you can bide your time and really let them hang out and learn all these really cool concepts in cool contexts.
Right.
So I did it again.
You did it.
Yeah.
There's nothing babyish about the books. I mean, I used it with 8 and 9-year-olds along with Keyboard Kickoff, and they loved just the fun component of it.
We are more about clever than cutesy.
Yeah.
So, we always sneak little things in there. We don't know if any of you noticed them.
Yes.
But
Hint.
We're still waiting for those emails.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.